All right, welcome to this episode of Behind the Scenes. I am Joe Danyi. And first, I want to thank all of you for watching this show and supporting this project. It's been an amazing thing to be a part of. We got to go literally behind the scenes of a lot of businesses, theaters, musicians, charities. We got to see things that typically most of us don't get to see. And we got to meet people who typically don't go in front of the public, and you really don't get a chance to meet these people. Fascinating people doing amazing thing. And I think that as a community, we can have a sense of pride when we start to demonstrate some of the things that we are achieving in this community. There are people that are working very hard, making sacrifices, doing amazing things, and you might not ever know that it's going on in your own community. One of the first examples was I lived in Girard my entire life, and there was a robotics and automation company on State Street. They operated out of one of the buildings. Really, by looking at the sign, you didn't know that they were a robotics and automation company. And me being as, fascinated with technology, I had no idea they were even there. It wasn't until we started doing computer work for them that I had a chance to discover that, oh my goodness, like this is amazing and it's happening right in my community. I started traveling years ago, discovering, communities in other states and visiting historical places. And I'm thinking like I'm exhausting these resources to discover things. What about in my hometown? There are things in my hometown I probably don't know are even there. And so this project was to uncover some of those things, deliver a sense of community pride for the rest of us to see what's really going on, so we could feel really good about what's going on. This is the final episode in the spring of 2024. We're going to resume. In fact, we're not going to even break operations. We're going to continue meeting people. We're going to continue filming and getting some content still put together. And when we resume this program, we intend to do more of this type of program. And it's great. I mean, nothing but rave reviews from the people who have watched this, the people who have been involved in it. So I know we're on to a good thing. It's just going to be a matter of when we come back, either later in this year, the beginning of next year, we're going to need even more participation. We're going to need you as the viewers. If you'd like to see, if you know of a place that you think are those hidden gems, please let us know about it. Let us know that these things exist. So we're clumsily walking through places and trying to discover them as quickly as possible, but we need your help to give us some recommendations about things you think would illustrate very nicely. Not necessarily a sales pitch for a company, but one of those that are underappreciated and underdemonstrated. We're going to need you. And then when we resume, we'll also need your viewership to include. I want to thank WFMJ and the CW network for hosting this program. They've been extremely gracious to us and helping us put this together. So many thanks to them. And so here's a best of where we've clipped together some of the scenes and companies that you may have not seen air. We're going to put those together as this program. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.
Right now, like modern wrestling, like AEW figures, Elite, stuff like that are super hot. Mm-hmm. That's like what we probably sell the most of in our shop. We have like a 40-foot wall of just wrestling and 2 cases full of wrestling. Vintage-wise, everyone wants like rare Ninja Turtles. Mm-hmm. So like hot spot here. Just him with no accessories loose, it's like $1,000. Mm-hmm. And then like the Undercover Turtles. And like Master of the Universe, a lot of the Masters of the Universe people already have the common stuff, so they want the rarer stuff like Scareglow or Eternia, which Mattel actually just re-released in Eternia. WWF Hasbro's are still hot. Some of them just fluctuate big time in price, like the 1-2-3 Kid. Like 2 years ago was like $1,000 figure, and now it's right around like $500 again. And give some point in time, I'm sure it's going to skyrocket again for no good reason.
What's the most expensive toy you've ever sold?
Recently, it was at the Maryland Toy Expo. And it was a sealed Galoob Inspector Gadget.
Okay.
Which is like the big, it wasn't like 12 inch, it was like 16 inch, something like that. We had one of those sealed. We sold that. But of most expensive that we've probably ever sold, probably Wonder Bread He-Man, which was like, at that point in time, I think it was like $2,000 or something like that.
So give me a little bit of the history. How did you guys get involved in the arcade industry?
Well, I think it started with myself being a collector and a passionate collector at that. And over the years, I took that passion to the next level and put on a show in Chicago called Pinball Expo, where we toured pinball factories and met a lot of the personnel in the industry. Meanwhile, the collection kept growing to insane levels. And my thinking past the Santisi IGA over the years in Girard was, wouldn't it be cool to have to buy that building in hopes of maybe putting my collection in there, because I had all these games, but I never knew what to do with them. And then in the meantime, I met Mike Hale. And Mike, the one thing he's got going for him, he's a very enthusiastic young man. And I reached out to him over time and said, I got this vision of having this building, but my wife, on her suggestion to have it turn it into a museum of sorts, I reached out to Mike and said, Mike, what do you think? Would you be interested in doing this? And it was a lasting in his mind at the time. He was in the teaching profession in the school system, and they treated him well. So I said, well, let me treat you just a little bit better so maybe you could think about it. So he smiled, and it didn't get too far with him. I said, well, let me talk to your dad. He says, I'll make a decision when the time is right, I guess, in so many words.
You invited us over for lunch. Yep, we drove on over and had lunch with you. Yep.
And it kind of developed, and I was fortunate enough to get Mike's services. And the one thing that he offers that I don't offer is being in the profession of in the school profession, is working with people that he's got to be very organized. And I needed an organization because at the time we had no marketing plan or game plan on where to start even. So I says, Mike, here, take it. So it took a year or so anyways, really to put things together, but it finally happened. So now this is my favorite row here, only because as we start walking up this aisle, these are games that I purchased in Spain and Italy. They were made specifically for that country. These are games you will not find anywhere in America. These are pinball machines only found in those countries. So I brought in 2 containers of games. But this, to me, is probably the keystone of our arcade, is just these very, very unique games. And honestly, these are one-of-a-kind games. I don't know where else you would find them.
And I bet you have people travel to get these more unique games that are hard to find anywhere else.
Yeah, we definitely get a lot of people. I actually just had a person message me, came in over the weekend, drove 7 hours from North Carolina to surprise his wife. She's a pinball geek.
Okay.
And he sent me a message and said, hey, we just walked in and she's crying. She can't even believe this. And he said we spent 2 hours before even starting the game just walking around and checking the place out. There's a whiz bang. Look at that. Made in Youngstown by Lincoln Manufacturing.
Never heard of this company. Listen, where is it? 21 Spring. I need to have someone go down there and see if there's any machines left up there in the attic.
And the next one here, the first one up when you first walk in the arcade is one I was mentioning before, Joe. This one is made in Youngstown. It's the very first game with a coin slide. And so it's really neat to have that piece in the arcade, not only obviously for the historic significance, but just based on the roots.
See, I was expecting some kind of gambling machine if it came from Youngstown.
Well, pinballs were outlawed in a lot of municipalities because they were used specifically as gambling devices, and that's actually why the flipper was invented, because it turned the game into a game of chance into a game of skill. So that they were primarily used in a lot of cities, including Chicago, where all the companies were actually outlawed pinball. New York, L.A., New Orleans. A lot of, because they were used, people considered to be gambling.
Youngstown Computer, the Valley's IT company. We appreciate the loyalty and all you have shown us over the years, and it's our promise to serve all the technology needs of the Valley. Call 330-259-7278. We have both commercial and residential services available. Everything from repair and installation to new equipment. Call 330-259-7278. Or you can schedule your appointment right now at youngstowncomputer.com. Just look for the red Book Now button.
So yeah, I'm gonna stop this. So there's you and Lemmy.
Yeah. Yep.
So you told me a story. We're gonna pause this video because you told me a story of meeting Lemmy and how this photo came about. So yeah, please tell our viewers
Sure.
the crazy story of Lemmy.
I can't remember the year. I want to say it was 19. I think It's on that photograph. Is it
Late 90s, I think.
Yeah, 97 then,
yeah.
I think. I think that might be dated 1997. So, yeah, at that time, a friend of mine, Margaret Sadie, who is from Youngstown, she was a journalist and photographer in the Cleveland area at that time. And she had gotten something lined up with Epitaph Records, the label that Wayne Kramer from the MC5 was signed to at the time, to develop what was called an EPK, an electronic press kit. I got hired to shoot this thing and then edit it under the direction of Margaret. So Margaret was the director of this thing, so I spent a little more than a weekend, primarily in Cleveland, interviewing Wayne and shooting some live performance stuff. Well, just by looking through the Cleveland scene, we found out that Motorhead was playing in town, and Wayne just said, "Oh, Lemmy's an old friend of mine." So, you could see the light bulb above Margaret's head, and she made some calls, and next thing, she said, "We're going to the hotel to interview Lemmy, about the MC5's influence on him and Motorhead," which we did. So we spent an afternoon in the hotel room with Lemmy interviewing him, and he was a pretty fun guy, when I could understand what he was saying. He was, and at the end of the thing, he just, we're taking some photos, because in that room was Jimmy Zero from the Dead Boys, Wayne Kramer from the MC5, and Lemmy. And it was pretty cool, really, if you're into hard rock. And we were getting ready to take off, and Lemmy grabs my arm, and interlocks our arms, and he just goes, "Let's get a photo, soccer style." And I was like, and that's why my face, I was trying not to laugh. The dude was so funny, and we're all trying to be like serious and, hard asses.
So wasn't there a spot where Lemmy was playing you? He was playing you the new record. So the record at the time, which was Snakebite Love, which coincidentally is the first Motorhead album that I think I ever bought. I bought that and Ace of Spades at the same time.
Oh wow!
And so
boy,
it was like,
that's a gamut.
I know.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think, it's the same band, but it's like, it's all right. It's technically, but yeah,
right.
But very different. But yeah, you were telling me that he just got the album hadn't come out yet, but we played it for you.
I don't know if it was out or not at the time, but they were touring that album, so I'm guessing it was out. But what happened is, so then we get done with the thing in the hotel, and they decide that they were on their way to the Rock Hall, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which was across Cleveland from where the hotel was. And coincidentally, that was our next stop as our shooting location for this thing we were doing with Wayne. So, well, we're all going over there. Lemmy says, "I'm going to take the bus." And I'm like, "Dude, you can ride with us, man." I thought he meant the public bus.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, wow, I thought they were doing a lot better than this. Well, then we all go down to the parking lot, and this huge black tour bus rolls out of the underground parking lot, and we're like, oh, that bus, the tour bus. So Wayne and I got out of the car, and we ran over, and we got on the Motorhead tour bus and rode across Cleveland to the Rock Hall. And it was a slow drive because that's a big vehicle trying to make its way through town. Lemmy decided to play us the new record, like at full volume on their bus sound system. And we're, the bus is big, but it's not that big. And we're just sort of sitting on this little couch, and he's standing right in front of us. And I don't know what he got. I knew he was drinking a lot of Jack in the hotel room, and I don't know what else he got into, like when they were going to the bus or once they got on the bus. But suddenly it was like, oh, this is sort of an intense experience now. And Lemmy was like right in front of us, and he was air bassing and singing at full volume right in our faces, and made us listen to every last song. Right. Yeah, so basically the whole Lemmy thing was great. I mean, it was an unexpected thing, and it was kind of scary at first, but then, it makes a great story.
Right.
So.
And give us how you came up with the concept for Sweet Memories.
Well, it actually, fell in my lap. my husband is from Philadelphia, South Philly, and me being from Jersey, we love history. And one day he was like, "Oh, did you know that Good Humor ice cream was from Youngstown?" I said, "I didn't have a clue." Like, I would expect to see like some big ice cream statue downtown Youngstown because it is such a national brand, And as I did some more research, I realized that, they invented ice cream on a stick, and America's first ice cream truck came from Youngstown. So I reached out to Unilever, who owns the licensing for Good Humor, and I asked them, who's designing your novelty T-shirt line for your 100-year anniversary in Youngstown? And, they're like, we never had an official licensing agreement apparel line. And I was like, I'll do it, woman-owned business.
Nice.
So they gave me a 1-year contract to design and print for their 100-year anniversary, which is in 2020. So I was really excited about it. And, we started planning, designs and, where are we going to set up Canfield Fair and different things because it was a 1-year contract. And I was like, well, I need to create a marketing social enterprise that impacts the community, not just to give back to the community, but let people know the history. Coming from outside the area, if you're outside the area, you don't always hear the best things about Youngstown. And, I thought it was really important to share the wonderful things and all the inventors and everything that happened here. So I was thinking ice cream kids go together, and I reached out to Akron's Children's Hospital because they saved my daughter's life when she was young. And I told them about the opportunity to create for Good Humor for their 100-year anniversary, and then I wanted to donate $5 off every shirt to Akron's Children's NICU babies.
Nice.
So we launched our apparel line, which was just Good Humor at the time, February of 2020. So it's actually 4 years ago this past weekend at the hospital. And I had the Historical Society there with me promoting the museum. A lot of people don't know there's a Good Humor museum downtown and, all those things. And Good Humor loved what we were doing so much. They sent us, 500 ice cream bars to the hospital to give to the staff and everything. And then COVID happened. And then, they had reached out in April and said, hey, we really love, what you've created and the give back. And, do you have the time to design for Popsicle? And they're from Oakland, California, invented by an 11-year-old. And I was like, at that time we were shut down because, we were unessential. And I was like, absolutely. And then as we started to design for Popsicle, they're like, oh, you're working with Dum Dums. And I'm like, no, why? And they're like, well, they're from Akron. I'm like, I didn't know that. And they're like, well, let's get you connected with Spangler Candy Company. And then Spangler Candy Company had just bought Necco and Sweethearts out of bankruptcy. And then my licensing agent was like, oh, I know the girls at Smarties and Pez. Let me get you connected. And then I called Tootsie, and I was like, hey, we're working with these brands, and they're like, oh, we're in, let's do it, So all of 2021 was all licensing agreements, designing, and, what I thought was just going to be a 1-year campaign ended up turning into, a whole T-shirt line. And then the interesting part was in 21, these brands were like, well, what are your sales projections? I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that, because I'm just setting up at Canfield Fair and selling a Daffin's candy and Giant Eagle and like these, small businesses. And so then I started wholesaling my shirts to candy stores all over the United States. So there's a store called It's Sugar that was in Times Square, New York, that carried some of my shirts, in the American Dream Mall. And going to all these stores, I was like, wow, these are really awesome stores. And, looking at our community here, we didn't have anything fun, that was at that impact of all the candy. So then I started building relationships with candy stores, saying, oh, if you, buy some of your candy, you carry my shirts, and built a network and resources of candy stores to help me navigate, how to effectively run a candy store. And then as we started to transition and hearing people come in the store and all their fond memories of everything they did growing up, it was just a normal transition into the toys, which we just opened up in November. Our biggest challenge is keeping up with the inventory and supply. There's stuff that with this, we had Snoopy Snow Cone machines, and I ordered them in September, and they didn't come until January, so, but then the second order, they came within 3 days, which was great. We did bring in a lot of STEM games, stuff that you don't normally find in other, Walmart. If you look up toy stores near me on Google, you get Walmart and Target. The Toys R Us experiences, and the KB toys are gone. So we tried to create something that was going to be more experiential for people.
Youngstown Computer, the Valley's IT company. We appreciate the loyalty and all you have shown us over the years, and it's our promise to serve all the technology needs of the Valley. Call 330-259-7278. We have both commercial and residential services available, everything from repair and installation to new equipment. Call 330-259-7278. Or you can schedule your appointment right now at youngstowncomputer.com. Just look for the red Book Now button.
What kind of conditions do you see these dogs, like, and what sort of conditions are you kind of taking them out of?
We've seen conditions where it's a very happy family and they just don't have the time because they're both working a lot of jobs, or too many kids. And we've seen as much as they've been abandoned in an abandoned house for weeks. We've seen dogs dragged behind cars. We've seen dogs burned. We've seen dogs starved. We've seen every terrible thing you can think of. And these dogs still have so much love to give. Like we have a dog, his name was Walter. One of the volunteers ended up adopting him because he was just so amazing. Came to us and he looked like he was just set on fire and let go. He had like no fur to him. He was all burns. The sweetest dog you would ever meet. Like you could not tell that a human being did that to him because he loved everyone he met. So we have a lot of awesome dogs that come through from the worst situations.
Yeah, I mean, are there any dogs that maybe are too far gone or that require, I guess, more kind of care to sort of bring them back to be adoptable?
Yeah, I mean, we've had dogs that they needed a little bit more work, reached out to trainers or found rescues that were a little bit more specialized in their care. Majority of the time, it just takes a little bit of love. They just hang out at the shelter. We overwhelm them with love sometimes. I don't know if when you came to visit, if you saw, like, we really like our time with the dogs there. We try as much, like, we don't get a ton of time with them, but the little we do, we try and let them know that they're cared for and someone wants to love them.
About how many volunteers do you guys have?
I think we have about 30 active volunteers. It's definitely a team effort. Some people come, like I said, come be every single day, or at least 5 or 6 days a week. Most try and do 1 or 2. We're there for about 2 hours at a time. We walk the dogs, feed the dogs, play with the dogs. I personally like playing with them because it's just so fun seeing them like break out of their shell, and that's Mason. He came from Mahoning County Pound. He was a puppy there, and he grew up basically in the shelter, it feels like. So we're really trying to get him a home before. That is Sundance. We are working on putting some weight on him. He's a fun little guy. He doesn't want to be outside very much. He's very happy in his kennel. He's smart. He is really quick to learn some. We were working on some training, and I think he's happier with learning cues and stuff. Yeah, we are definitely looking for a new building for our shelter. Unfortunately, we're kind of running into the worst housing crisis, building crisis, real estate crisis, it feels like. So we don't have the most ideal place for our dogs, but we're making it work. And definitely keeping an eye out for something else out there. If anyone has any leads, please throw them at us. We would love to move our dogs into a place that's not on a busy road because we're right off Mahoning Avenue. A place that has a better place. I mean, if you could see, we have a weird field to walk the dogs in of a burned down restaurant. So, yeah, we make it work. They definitely, it's better than what they could have.
What advice would you give somebody? All right, so say a parent discovers for the first time that their child has autism. What kind of advice can you give that person that first kind of discovers that situation?
You go through a lot of things with this initial shock, and I would say start seeking out help and some information, and everything is going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And there are a lot of programs out there, and there's a lot of support groups. We work locally with the Mahoning Valley Autism Society. They've been huge supporters of ours. I would suggest going that route.
So, see, you've got some awards here as well too.
Yeah.
Man, show our viewers if you would.
Yeah. So this award here, this was for a film that we did called Sophia, I Love You. This was actually not planned. We had originally started working with Kevin Martin, and the filmmakers saw a story about my daughter and myself. They wanted to show that side of autism. It's a 15-minute short doc. This is the Golden Door, the International Golden Door Film Festival in New Jersey that's run by the Sorvino family. We won this in 22. And then this film, this one was the Autism Awareness Film of the Year for the Kevin Martin film called In the Moment. And that's a 5-minute short doc. And this we won last year, actually.
Hey, this is Kellen with Youngstown Studio. Entrepreneurs, artists, and entertainers of all types drop by our place often, and we sometimes get the question, what all does Youngstown Studio do? Well, I'm here to show you. Youngstown Studio is a full-service podcasting and interview studio. We feature creatives from around the Mahoning Valley, rent our space to podcasters, distribute shows to popular podcasting channels, and we help tell the stories of hardworking people in our community. Youngstown Studio produces the Business Spotlight television show Behind the Scenes with Joe Danyi. Every Saturday at 11 a.m. on WBCB, The Valley CW, we highlight a different Mahoning Valley business. We featured everything from manufacturing plants and 3D printing facilities to local entertainment venues, breweries, recording studios, and more. Youngstown Studio is also home to Youngstown Studio Marketing. We create and design social media graphics, videos, reels, and manage and promote the online presence of Mahoning Valley businesses of all types. We rebrand local businesses and design their logos, signage, merchandise, and more. We design event posters, concert flyers, print advertisements, newsletters, and anything and everything in between when it comes to graphic design. We record live performances here in our studio for online streaming or to help promote your music or upcoming concerts. We write, record, and produce radio and podcast advertisements. Need a voiceover or do you want to record an audiobook? We can do that. We also handle the marketing and promotions of our parent company, Youngstown Computer, the Valley's IT company. If your business needs marketing help, if you want to record a podcast, or if you have a business idea you want to get off the ground, call Youngstown Studio today.